Hello and welcome to the Seeing Stone, where we'll be discussing Lord of the Rings and Tolkien's wider legendarium. My name is Gavin, and I'm joined by my good friends Connor and David.
What's up?
I'm Connor.
He is Connor. Just to clarify, that's Connor, and
this is David.
And that is David. Since our first episode, one of the things I want to do for the introduction is just like a brief overview of kind of like our knowledge and understanding of Lord of the Rings. Because like for myself, I watched the movies when I was like 6 or 7, and I ended up reading the Hobbit books, and I ended up reading the Lord of the Rings books. So I was like 13 or so, and then I read Silmarillion with that. I know both of you guys have seen the movies, right? Yeah, because we watched the movies together.
Yeah. I've definitely seen all the movies.
The Hobbit movies too.
Mm-hmm.
I watched, all of them as a lad, and I got to watch them with special Gavin commentary recently.
But you guys haven't read the books, or have you read the?
I only read the Hobbit.
So you read the Hobbit, but you haven't read the Lord of the Rings books yet, right?
I haven't either.
All right. Well, this is fantastic. So I'll be able to give you a little bit of insight into the books as well. Now for the episode topic. Now Connor and I were discussing this beforehand, but I don't know. Do you happen to remember the episode topic that we talked about? Our first episode.
One was, like the rings given to the either elves or something.
Yeah.
And then the other one, I don't know, one of the wizards.
Yes, one of the wizards. Yeah, so it is one of the wizards. Actually, a character part of both the books and the movie, so it should be a character you already kind of know. We're going to be talking about Saruman. White. The White Wizard. The Jailer of Mordor. And a bunch of other fancy titles. But before we talk about just like Saruman in particular, I want to talk about the wizards, because unlike Harry Potter or other works, the wizards are not like just normal people that you train, learn spells, all that. The wizards are more kind of like angels, and in fact they're called Maiar, and it's kind of the thing with like the not hierarchy, but like the angelic order in Lord of the Rings. So there's Iluvatar, who's like the god of Middle Earth. There's the Valar, which are they're called the gods, but they're not. It's not like say Roman or Greek mythology, because there still is a god, but there's like these kind of demigods that are over specific things. And then there's the Maiar, who are just like normal angels. You can kind of think of the Valar as like thrones and dominions, like higher levels of angels, and then the Maiar are just lesser angels that do like smaller work and stuff like that. So they're Maiar. Saruman was a Maiar of Aule, who is the Valar of like smithing and craftsmanship. He also is the one who creates the dwarves specifically. Another Maiar, who you guys might know, is Sauron, who is also another Maiar of Aule. That's why like he creates the rings. Saruman's actual name, like his like elven name, is called Skilled One, which is Karumo. And then later, like in Middle Earth, by the elves, he's called Kuranir, which is man of skill.
Skilled One?
Skilled One.
That sounds like... Is it supposed to sound like Skilled One?
Skilled One.
Like one that is skilled?
Yes, like skilled one that is skilled. And then there's like a little difference, so that's like the Quenya one. And then there's Sindarin, which is man of skill. So it's basically the same thing. But yeah, so they're angelic messengers, rather than like that. At least the 5 wizards. There's some other characters, like the Witch King is sometimes also called like the Wizard King in some writings, but he's not like the other. He's immortal as well. But the Order of Wizards, the Astari, the wise men, are angelic creatures. They're Maiar. Yeah, so they live in Aman. So the Undying Lands. You remember at the end of the Lord of the Rings movies, there's the Grey Havens and Frodo, and that ship goes off and they sail into the west. That is the Undying Lands. Now the movies make it seem more kind of like it's heaven. It's much more like a paradise. It's like the Undying Lands are where all the elves go when they die or when they wish to pass away. They go in there. The Maiar, the Valar, the gods live there. In Aman, in Valinor. So that's where all the Maiar reside, who are in Middle Earth, in the world. But before actually they do anything as the wizard, there is one mission that they are mentioned in Valiant Year 866. So, of course, Lord of the Rings is in the Third Age, which means there's a Second Age, and would you believe it, there's a First Age.
What?
But before that, there's like kind of a primordial age called the Valiant Years. during that is when the elves and men both awake. But they awaken far in the east. They're discovered by the Valar, and the Valar choose to send what they call 5 guardians to protect them. And those 5 guardians happen to be the 5 Astari, but they weren't yet wizards yet, so they're just called the 5 guardians. Saruman at that time is called Tarindor, which means wise-minded one. I don't know what the difference is for it. I think it's pretty much just the same thing. But he goes. Really, all we know about it is the 5 wizards go there, they guard the elves, and then at some time they return, because most of the elves migrate west towards Valinor, towards the Undying Lands. They sail over the sea. The ones, there's some that stay behind, like the elves in The Hobbit, in Mirkwood. Those are elves that stayed behind that didn't make the full journey. But elves like Galadriel goes to the Undying Lands and then comes back later. There's a whole... I do remember I was telling Connor I did not want to do like the whole Houses of the Elves because that's a whole convoluted mess. Sometime after the First Age, and it's probably sometime after the Rings of Power are forged, the Valar called together a council, and they decide to send messengers to assist in the fight against Sauron. Kurumo, also known as Saruman, happens to be in attendance. And he volunteers to go and is made the chief of the Order of Astari, or wizards, which are wise men. So he's kind of initially made, the leader of it.
Wait, so all the wizards are like called Astari.
Yes.
And then what was the Maiar?
So Maiar is just like their level of being, their rank. So like all the Astari are Maiar, but not all Maiar are Astari. Of course, Sauron's one of them. And he's not a wizard. But before leaving, Saruman is charged to bring Iwendil, who would become known as Radagast, by the Valar Yavanna, who is like the goddess of plants, trees. Kind of makes sense for Radagast. He's a tree hugger. And they would also be joined by Olorin, who is another character we know, Gandalf, who did not actually want to go to Middle-earth, but he was commanded by Manwë, like the chief of the Valar, like, you have to go. Fine. But Varda, one of the other Valar, again, there's a lot of Valar. But Varda would say that Gandalf was not the third, that he was actually the chief of importance. And this is like the first time where we got to see Saruman being just very petty and upset. So already he starts to resent Gandalf because upper management said they liked him better. So they get so he already starts to be a little bit of a grumpy boy before they set off. They arrive in around the year 1000 of the Third Age. They arrive on the coasts over in Lindon.
This is the wizards arriving.
These are the wizards. Yes. So they arrive in the bodies of old men, still capable of injury, hunger, and pain, but never seeming to age, only by weariness of their labors. So they can live pretty much forever. They're still, old men, so they can still die, get beat up, and all of that. And they still have to learn things. Like they don't have their full knowledge, but they're still very wise, and they still know like what their purpose is. The ship lands at the Grey Havens in Lindon. No one really, not even the elves, know who they are, save Círdan, who receives them. And he probably tells Galadriel and Elrond, since they both kind of know who they are as well. But Círdan actually gives Gandalf one of the 3 elven rings. He gives him Narya. The powers aren't super clear, but basically the power of Narya is like to encourage people, which is kind of what Gandalf does. Like they're all in the book, so it kind of helps them in that regard. But Saruman later learns about this, and even more is he starting to resent Gandalf because he gets one of the elven rings and he doesn't.
Nice.
So Saruman decides to do this by abandoning Radagast, who he's supposed to be over. He's like the older brother taking Radagast, immediately dumps Radagast, and journeys off into the east, into Rhûn. Just leaves all of Middle-earth, we know everything on the map, and just goes out east. Maybe with the Blue Wizards. The Blue Wizards either leave at the same time, or there's some things where they arrive earlier. But the Blue Wizards go east too. But Saruman goes into the east with or without the Blue Wizards. And he's not heard of for 1,500 years. He's gone out in the east. Don't know anything about him. Just gone, hanging out, having a good time out in the east. But he does return around the same time Sauron starts to take over Dol Guldur, which is that tower in Mirkwood, that old abandoned fortress that he's in The Hobbit. In 2463, he comes back and the White Council is formed. The White Council are in charge of fighting back Sauron, especially once he returns to Middle-earth. It consists of Saruman, Gandalf, maybe Radagast. I wasn't sure, but I think Radagast is on it. Galadriel, Elrond, which you both know. And then some other characters. Círdan is in it, who I just talked about, and Glorfindel, which is another character that unfortunately got cut from the movie. Galadriel initially wants Gandalf to be in charge, but Saruman is like, no, I don't want to step down. And Gandalf kind of like, I'm good. So he declines. So Saruman ends up becoming the head of the White Council. And again, those little things, Gandalf is always getting ahead of him, and Saruman is just constantly just like, it makes his character's downfall that much better, because he is like, there's multiple times he said as being like the chief of the wizards. You know, Gandalf says he's the chief of the order, he's the most important. And I think there's a reference in Two Towers where Mary's like, I don't know if Sauron's that like powerful, or Saruman is that powerful. I keep getting him mixed up. But even Aragorn says like, no, he was the greatest wizard of the time. Like, we're not hiding the ball or this or anything. He was the greatest, but he just keeps constantly being petty and upset about everything. Like, why does Gandalf get a magic ring and I don't?
Okay, and we'll recap real quick on that magic ring. So, he was given this ring that's supposed to be like a +2, +5 to charisma.
Basically, yeah.
So does Gandalf still have that?
Yes, he still has it.
In the like the Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit?
Yeah, we'll probably talk about it when we do our Elven Rings episode, but yes, Gandalf, one of the rings can kind of like hide themselves, so you don't always see it, but in the books, Gandalf has this ring all the way up till then.
Oh, okay.
Which is why he's so good at what he does, but Círdan gives it to him because he's like, obviously you're going to need this, and then just Saruman's over in the corner, just cope, Seethe, thou hast no ring. Why does Radagast get invited to the White Council after party? Why was I not invited?
Am I not cool?
Radagast, can we go to White Castle?
I was hoping we could hang out. Yeah. And at the same time, so while the whole White Council thing is going on and they're bickering with each other, Gandalf, of course, is going to the Shire. And Saruman notices this, so he starts sending spies to the Shire and to the... Thank you.
Sorry, I was just drinking.
Sorry, just taking a good sip of water, I see.
Yeah, I was just a little thirsty.
So Gandalf, he starts sending spies to Bree and to the Shire. And he even ends up going there himself, though he doesn't go too often because he doesn't want to be caught. And he also starts taking up pipe smoking to kind of like mimic Gandalf, though he's kind of embarrassed of this because, again, he's very prideful and petty.
And can't blow a smoke.
Can't blow smoke rings.
Ship.
Yeah,
Wow.
through a... Yeah. But Gandalf discovers this, and he just kind of laughs at him. But when Saruman discovers that the ring is in the Shire, he's immediately like, I know why Gandalf's visiting there. It's because the ring's there. Gandalf wants the ring for himself. Obviously, he's betrayed us.
Now, this is... You're talking about the One Ring.
Yes, the One Ring. When Bilbo finds it, and then later when Saruman kind of like figures it out, it's like, this is why Gandalf was going.
We're at that point.
He wants the One Ring. I knew it the whole time. There's even a little quote on it. Do you want to read that quote right there?
Seeing then that Gandalf thought the Shire was worth visiting, Saruman himself visited it, but disguised, and it the utmost secret, until he had explored and noted all its ways and lands. He thought then he had learned all there was to know of it, and even when it seemed to him no longer wise nor profitable to go thither, he still had spies and servants that went in or kept an eye upon its borders.
Yeah, because Sauron, so yeah, we don't really see it, even the movies or the books. This is from Unfinished Tales, like one of the extra ones. But Saruman he knew about it for a long while. You don't really get to see it as much. But that's why he has pipeweed and stuff like that in Isengard, because he gets it from some of his contacts there. But also during this time, he's at Minas Tirith in the archives. and discovers that one of the Palantir, one of the Seeing Stones, like the name of the show, is stored in Isengard, or at least possibly stored in Isengard. And his like special task of the White Council is researching the Rings of Power, so the Elven Rings, the other rings, and of course the One Ring itself. In Third Age, 27 to 59, Saruman appears at the crowning of King Freylaf of Rohan's crowning, and with permission from Steward Baron of Gondor, he takes over ownership of Isengard. So Isengard is still a possession of Gondor. Before Saruman takes over, it's still held as like them, even though it's in Rohan's territory.
Right.
Isengard is called Angranost, or Iron Fortress, and the area around it, that little valley area, is called Nan Crunir, which, if you'll note from earlier, is his name, but it's called the Wizard's Vale, is that little valley area. And so, but the central tower, the tower you see in like the movies and artwork and stuff like that, that's Orthanc, which is Mount Fang, or the Rohirrim call it the Cunning Mind, probably after Saruman again, because this whole thing is like being really smart, despite making some of the stupidest decisions because he's really petty.
Yeah.
And this one's built by the Númenóreans in exile, early Gondor. It was only guarded by like a small like Gondorian out company, like a hereditary position. And it was built of a black, near indestructible metal. The walls in Gondor are built out of the same things.
Wow. Wait, so you said it's just some black material. Does anything ever say like what specifically or how it's made?
It doesn't say specifically. I think it's Númenórean, which is like pre-Gondorian ancestors. It's like some of their like long. Again, it's one of those things where it's like the material we had it, we don't have it anymore.
Okay.
Now, previously, a few years before it, 49 years before it, during the War of the Rohirrim, Isengard was occupied by Dunlendings. And they couldn't get into Orthanc, but they kind of just took it over, and most of the hereditary captains after it just turned, because most of them were Dunlendings anyways. So they just kind of turned traitor. So by the time Saruman actually showed up, there was no one there. It was kind of empty.
Oh, wow.
So Steward Baron was like, take the keys, go on, have fun, knock yourself out. In 2850, Gandalf discovers Sauron and Dol Guldur, and he brings us up to the White Council.
He discovers Sauron where?
In Dol Guldur, in the place, the fortress in The Hobbit.
Oh.
He discovers them there in that fortress just a little bit north of Fangorn.
Yeah.
So he's in there. Gandalf discovers him. And he's like, we should get him. This is Sauron. Let's drive him out. And Saruman's like, no. Let's not. It's like, no, the One Ring's lost. We don't need to worry about it. So this is kind of like where we first start to see he's actually, because up until now, even though like I've been joking that he's a really petty character, he's not necessarily evil. This is where we first kind of get to see that he wants it for himself. There's little dialogue between them. You might find that smoke blown out cleared your mind of shadows within. Anyway, it gives patience to listen to error without anger. But is not one of my toys, that is an art of the little people away in the west, merry and worthy folk, though not of much account, perhaps, in your high policies. And to this, Saruman says, Saruman was little appeased by this answer, for he hated mockery, however gentle, and he said then coldly, You jest, Lord Mithrandir, as is your way. I know well enough that you have become an explorer of the small weeds, wild things, and childish folk. Your time is your own to spend. If you have nothing worthier to do, and your friends you may make as you please. But to me the days are too dark for wanderers' tales, and I have no time for the simples of peasants. Which is so Saruman.
Yeah.
It's like they're having a conversation stuff, and Gandalf's just, smoking away, having a good time. Saruman's like... And then in 1 year later, Saruman searches the Gladden Fields, which is where Isildur dies with the ring, trying to find it for himself. We don't know if he finds the body, but he does find some of Isildur's remains, the Elendilmir, which is like a fancy necklace of the kings, and a chain, which is...
Isildur?
Isildur was the king of Gondor who died. He took the ring after they defeated him at the end of the Second Age, but he later got shot. Yeah, so he dies in the Gladden Fields. Saruman goes to investigate, trying to look for the ring, because that's, of course, the last location it was at. But he doesn't find it. He just finds a chain where the ring would have been. He also at some time talked with Treebeard, because Treebeard mentions that he would talk with him while he was at Isengard. And he also gets Radagast to teach him how to talk to birds, so he can have birds for spies and agents.
Oh, wow, okay.
On 2941, which is the same year as The Hobbit, Saruman finally agrees that the White Council should assault Dol Guldur. After hearing that Sauron was searching the Gladden Fields too for it, so he was kind of freaked out. And so they attack Sauron, they drive him out, and Sauron returns to Mordor. Now, a little bit later, in 2953, so 12 years later, the last White Council is convened. Saruman claims the ring is passed down the Anduin River, which is out into the sea. It will never be recovered again. And then also at this time, he kind of claims sovereignty over Isengard. He just kind of takes it for himself and starts to fortify it and build his own armies. Last thing I have before the War of the Ring is in 2990, Saruman starts to breed Uruk-hai. That you see, they're a little bit more defined. They have those weird breeding pits in the movies.
Oh, yeah.
The slimy guys.
Yeah. The Uruk-hai are... the Uruk-hai are a little bit different from other orcs. So orcs normally hate sunlight in Lord of the Rings, but the Uruk-hai are special. They're kind of like immune to it, and they're a little bit stronger, a little bit more beefy. By the War of the Ring, Saruman has an army of about 10,000, which is pretty substantial. Not as big as Mordor or like some of the other armies, but is still pretty formidable. It has some orcs, some probably from the White Mountains and Grey Mountains. Or not Grey Mountains, the White Mountains and... what's the mountain range for this? The Misty Mountains. I forget those.
Oh, yeah.
The Misty Mountains. He has orcs from those. He, of course, has his Uruk-hai, who he's been breeding. Dunlendings, who are kind of fed up with the Rohirrim. Wargs, which are those big wolf creatures. Half-orc-men, which I don't want to know how he made those.
Yeah.
But somehow he creates half-orc-men.
Are those in the movie?
I don't think those... I think we would know if they're in the movie. They're in the books.
Oh, okay.
So he does create half-orc-men, which... he's specifically noted for breeding, which is interesting.
Half orc, half human.
Yeah. Interesting. Just have a blurred out image on the screen.
So
don't need to worry about that.
Well, we're gonna have to have the discussion at some point about female orcs.
Oh, okay, we'll do that. We'll do an orc episode.
That's if we get
we
Patrick
can talk
here.
about. We can get Patrick here. We can have Patrick here. We'll have another 2-hour argument over female orcs.
Yeah.
Another thing that's not really mentioned in any of the other armies. I think it's really just Saruman, again, being the wise-minded one with all his special knowledge, creates the Fire of Orthanc, which is gunpowder. It's that big explosion he creates at Helm's Deep.
Okay.
There's not really much gunpowder in it. I mean, there's no gunpowder weaponry, of course, but he seems to be the only one who created it. And again, it's probably like gunpowder and some sort of explosive.
So he's going like civilization on them.
Yeah. Just like an orc with a bomb just running at the wall.
I think that's Clash of Clans.
That's all. Sorry.
Yeah.
The bomb skeletons?
Yeah.
Yeah. We don't know exactly at what time, but Saruman is contacted and corrupted by Sauron through the Minas Morgul Stone, which was once Minas Ithil, and it also housed a Palantir, much like Minas Tirith housed one that the stewards had and the kings. The Seeing Stones, just a brief thing of the Seeing Stones, so they can see stuff, but their specific thing is communicating with each other. So Sauron, because he has the Minas Morgul Stone, is able to communicate with Saruman, and so he ends up corrupting him, though not all the way. The movies make him seem like he's kind of a pawn. Saruman, for his credit, is a little bit more of a slippery guy than that. He has his own plans, and Saruman also corrupts Grima Wormtongue of Rohan to become his spy. He weakens the king while he starts sending raids on the areas of Rohan. Mostly the Westfold and like northern regions near Isengard. Meanwhile, Grima slightly poisons the king, I think it was. It's not like possession. Like you see in the movies, it's more kind of like poison and just like weakening him down or like bad information. And he's basically just trying to take over, at least knock out Rohan so that it won't be an issue for him. But also at the same time, he works to disrupt Mordor spies from finding the Shire. Once he believes that the ring is there because he wants the ring for himself. So he has raiding parties that are going out and killing off spies and stuff of Mordor.
Oh, wow.
So that way they won't find out. Like I said before, once he finds out that the ring is there, he thinks Gandalf, the only reason he would go there is not because, he cares for hobbits, but obviously because he wanted the One Ring for himself. So Saruman deceives Radagast into finding Gandalf and telling him to come visit Isengard. In the movies, I think Gandalf just goes to Saruman of his own accord, but in the books, Radagast actually finds him. And Radagast we'll talk about Radagast in his own episode, but he's not Saruman. He's not like complex plots and stuff like that. Saruman just tells him, hey, you need to go find Gandalf and have him come to me so we can like talk. Or I guess like, alright, I've got it. So he goes finds Gandalf, he's like, hey, let's go. And Gandalf's like, alright, got it. And he goes, and then Radagast we never hear from again.
Wow.
A bit sad. We'll talk about Radagast later. But here's what Saruman thinks of Radagast. Talk about being petty and prideful. You wanna read that quote of Saruman?
Radagast the Brown, laughed Saruman, and he no longer concealed his scorn. Radagast the bird tamer, Radagast the simple, Radagast the fool. Yet he had just the wit to play the part that I set him. For you have come, and that was all the purpose of my message. And here you will stay, Gandalf the Grey, the rest from your journey. And rest from your journeys. For I am Saruman the Wise, Saruman the Ringmaker, Saruman of many colors. And that's just not very nice.
That's not, is it?
Come on, guy.
Yeah, no, he does not. Ever since Radagast had to go with him, Radagast is very much the younger brother that was forced to tag along by mom with the older brother, and Saruman's just like, I'm done with him tagging after me. But there are a few things. Saruman tends to spoil a lot in his monologues. You'll note one thing, and I'll pull up some artwork. Actually, let me pull up some artwork. I don't know if I have here. Let me. There is this great piece. So in the movies, he's shown as wearing white, but actually in the books, he's more described of having this like many colors kind of look. Now it'd be kind of hard. I can see it being hard to replicate.
Saruman?
Yes. Yeah. So he says Saruman of many colors, and there's like the description of it, like his clothing changing color whenever he moves. So he gets kind of this like rainbowy, fluorescent, like changing
that would have
color
that would have taken a
and
lot
stuff
of
like that.
CGI.
Yeah, but it looks really cool, and I haven't seen a lot of artwork that does it. There's some other ones, but he's got this very cool design. It's one thing, unfortunately, I think it would be hard to put in the movies.
Gandalf, look at my disco robes.
It starts like spinning around.
Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat.
Yeah. And another thing he says, Saruman Ringmaker. Now, one thing to note is, and Gandalf even notes this specifically when he's talking about it, is Saruman also has a ring. Normally, when you only hear about rings in Lord of the Rings, you only hear about the rings of power, the 9 for mortal men, so on that. But there are other rings. There's specifically mentioned lesser rings, and Saruman is known for making his own rings. And so it's pretty much confirmed that Saruman tried to make his own ring of power, and this is the ring he carries. But rings aren't necessarily, again, they don't give you powers. It more just enhances the powers they already have. Kind of like the elven ring that Gandalf has allows him to be a more proficient, like, almost said influencer, but he's able to, it's like the fire that stirs the hearts of men and allows him to rouse people to courage and art, which is what the job of the wizards was to not seek power for themselves, but to encourage the free peoples to fight for themselves. But Saruman creates his ring, and his power is described as the power of his voice. He's able to convince people with his eloquent voice, and so this ring is kind of thought to be, I believe, like something that helps him increase it, because even after he loses much of his power as a Maiar, much of his like angelic being, when he trades like his powers for more kind of industry and gunpowder and like orcs and stuff like that, but he still retains the power of his voice, and so he was obviously trying to craft his own ring of power for himself. So I thought that was a little interesting thing about him.
So did you say he traded in his Maiar nature? It's
not traded in. I mean, they're mortal. They're the Maiar, but they're still in mortal bodies. But it's kind of, Gandalf still, because magic in Middle Earth isn't necessarily, again, it's not like Harry Potter where it's just you say some words and fireball. Right. It's not like Mage Arena. But it's more of a theological understanding. It's more of an angelic. So it's like they can use their power, but they can of course lose that if they turn away from their ultimate purpose.
Oh, I see.
So Gandalf
Right.
doesn't use his power because their job isn't to be, you know, the nuclear option
Yeah.
where they just go in and blast everything away. They're supposed to encourage other people to fight. Sauron uses his power for himself, and you know, he creates rings of power, you might even say. But that's kind of like how they work. So when it's like Saruman traded in his thing, he abandons the whole kind of mission to people and just kind of turns to, I need to consolidate power. I need to make myself a physical power in Middle Earth so that I can rival Sauron. Which even in the books, it makes fun of him. I think it calls it like a child's toy or something like that compared to Barad-dûr. It's just like, yeah, you're not.
Wow.
He's very smart and very cunning, but it's like you're not gonna rival Mordor. He's been doing this for thousands of years longer than you.
Yeah.
But when Sauron goes looking for the ring after he captures Gollum and then lets him go to look for the ring, Saruman's spies actually waylay his forces tracking Gollum, so that way Gollum can escape. So Saruman can find him and go for the ring, or the Shire, where he thinks the ring is. Because of this, Sauron gets really mad and he sends the Nazgul to Orthanc, to Isengard, to go speak with him directly. Because at this point, Sauron's like, he knows they're allied, but he knows that Saruman's not very trustworthy.
Right.
He's kind of playing for his own game.
Mm-hmm.
So they arrive just a couple days after Gandalf escapes. And Saruman's voice speaks from the gate, and he says, "It is not a land that you look for," it said. "I know what you seek, though you do not name it. I have it not, as surely its servants perceive without telling, for if I had it, then you would bow before me and call me lord. And if I knew where this thing was hid, I should not be here, but long gone before you to take it." And he basically tells him, Gandalf has it, I don't know where Gandalf went, he ran away, go find him. And the Nazgul go off into the local fields to go try to find him.
Yeah.
It also does note that, like, Saruman, like, the power of his voice, the Nazgul don't even doubt it because he's just that much of an eloquent speaker.
Mm-hmm.
That even the Nazgul are like, he doesn't have it, alright, let's go find Gandalf. And they go wander off to find it.
And where is the ring actually at this point?
The ring is still in the Shire at this point. So
okay,
Bilbo later, I think at this point he may have given it to Frodo. So it's still in the Shire.
Mm-hmm.
But, and Saruman's not being idle. There are not talking just kind of fanciful about being able to control the Nazgul. There is, I forget which letter, which talks about Gandalf being able to control the ring if he would have taken it, and he would have basically been able to become his own Sauron. He would have become his own Dark Lord if he took it. And the same was presumably for Saruman, so he would have been able to control it. So if he had the ring, he would have been able to have the 9 Nazgul, and pretty much with that, he could have actually won. And he does get very close to winning it, but he wasn't going to win by just outright war. It specifically depended on him getting the one ring.
Right.
But as you'll see, that doesn't exactly work out in his favor. So he sends him nearby to find Gandalf, but of course Gandalf flew away on an eagle and is long out of there at this time. But the Nazgul find Wormtongue as he's coming back to report to Saruman, and the Witch King just basically scares the information out. He's like, "Hey, what's up? Your boss happens to know where the ring is. Where is it?" And Grima's just a normal mortal guy. He's like, "It's in the Shire. It's in the Shire." That's what he said.
Wow.
And then the Witch King lets him go. He's like, "You're not gonna talk," so he just sends him off. He knows he's not gonna tell Saruman because the Witch King's just absolutely terrifying. They also capture some of the spies in Bree, and so that some of Saruman's spies in Bree, and turn them basically into Mordor spies.
Oh, wow.
They're still allies in name only at this point. They're still, even though they're not in open war, they're kind of like trying to double cross the other. So Saruman finds himself in this like weird precarious situation where like he just has to get the ring. So he sends all his forces and he goes to kill Theodred, who was the son of Theoden. And they fight at the Fords of Isen, I believe is where he fights. So they fight right here at this little gap between Isengard and the rest of Rohan. And they kill Theodred, which leaves Eomer and Eowyn, the niece and nephew. And he sends out those spies and the raiding parties of orcs to go find the ring, if it happens to pass that way. Especially because he's thinking they'll either cross over the mountains, they end up going through Moria, but they would either have to go that way or they have to cross through the gap of Rohan. Or I presume they could go over the arid mountains, but again, it's one of those things where they could have gone several directions, but they ended up not going that way. But he still sends out raiding parties to go find them. The raiding parties do end up finding them. They attack the Fellowship, as in Fellowship of the Ring. But instead of capturing the right hobbits, instead of capturing Frodo and Sam, they end up capturing Merry and Pippin, thinking, we have the hobbits, because he doesn't trust them, so he's not going to tell them about the ring. He's just like, go find hobbits, go bring them back alive. That's all you need to do. So they end up bringing back Merry and Pippin, who do not have the ring, and then, of course, those orcs are killed right outside Fangorn by the Rohirrim. The bodies all burned, and Merry and Pippin flee into the forest and join up with the Ents.
Yeah.
In March 2nd of Third Age 3019, which is where most Lord of the Rings takes place, Erkenbrand, who I think is Lord of the Westfold, he's one of the Rohirrim captains, he fights like the main force of Isengard at the Fords of Isen. In the movies, they retreat immediately to Helm's Deep, but the Rohan actually goes out to fight at the Fords of Isen, but they find Erkenbrand's basically forces all scattered. The field's kind of gone at this point, so they retreat to Helm's Deep, whatever units they have left, because he only has basically whatever was at Edoras. There's still a bunch of other Rohirrim living out in the countryside and stuff like that. They are not all mustered together.
Right.
So Erkenbrand's forces are all gone. And then, of course, the Battle of Helm's Deep happens, just like the movies. The Ents go to war with Isengard. Basically all of his soldiers were sent out to go fight Rohan. He forgot about the Ents. The Ents show up, and Treebeard's like, rip and tear, and destroys Isengard. And then we get the voice of Saruman, which I know you guys haven't read the books, but if you guys do read the books, some of the best chapters, in my opinion, are the dialogue chapters. And the voice of Saruman is one of the best ones. It's that scene where Saruman's talking like with everyone there. And in it, Saruman's trying to like coax them, like, "Hey, I'm actually your friend. You guys should decide to ally with me." He's kind of he's still very coaxing.
Right.
He still has that smooth voice, but they just kind of laugh him off. And then Gandalf just like, "Your staff is broken," and then just shatters his staff and casts him out and is like, "Yeah, you're gone. I am Gandalf the White now. You have no color, and I cast you from the Order." Fireball. Saruman.
I take from you the rank of white.
I
Be anything else.
I am regional manager now. But yeah, Saruman throws a tantrum, goes back in. Wormtongue doesn't know who he hates more, so he tries to throw the Palantir at Gandalf, but misses. And then Saruman gets really mad because that's like the Palantir. There's only 7 of them. It's like, no, you threw them away by phone.
Okay. Yeah.
So those two are kind of stuck in there, and the Ents just kind of sit around there menacingly, waiting for him to come out. But he ends up basically getting locked in Isengard in the Tower of Orthanc,
Right.
and he just kind of sits there for the rest of the War of the Ring. But although in August 15th, Saruman, still with that voice of his, finally manages to convince Treebeard to let him and Wormtongue go free. So they get out and they go to the Shire. Now you guys.
Wait.
In the extended edition, he dies. And this is unfortunately one of the things they had to cut, or I don't know if they had to cut it, but they cut. This is probably the most important part of Saruman, which is unfortunate that they had to cut him. But Saruman and Wormtongue actually go free. And they go to the Shire, where Saruman had been making contacts, and do some of the other hobbits and had spies and stuff there.
Oh, wow.
And his ally, Lotho Sackville Baggins, which is like one of the relations of the Baggins, who's now kind of in charge, is kind of taken over as the head hobbit. He takes over as kind of his ally, and he eventually bullies Lotho into be kind of he's presented as his assistant, his headman, but he's really the one ruling the scenes. He takes the name of Sharky, which is literally just Orcish for old man. So he went from cunning and wise one to the old man, which is kind of a fall from grace to say the least.
And just for reference, like you said like August. You said the date, but I don't know like when that.
So
in the timeline of.
So the Battle of Helm's Deep is right around March.
Oh, okay.
Roughly, I haven't. It's March 2nd. Well, that's what the fight with Erkenbrand. But August 15th, so like a couple months later. It's right during like the end of the War of the Ring. Like, actually no, that's quite a while because I think Saruman's destroyed. Not Sauron. The Dark Lord Sauron's destroyed 25th of March.
Oh.
So this is
okay.
actually, this is quite a while after.
Yeah.
But in the books, they spend a lot of time, like, on vacation, as you
Right.
would want to after
Exactly.
you've gone through all of that.
Mm-hmm.
But Saruman convinces to let him go, and he goes back, and he's still kind of ruling behind the scenes, but he ends up taking over most of Hobbiton. There's men, a bunch of like ruffians and stuff like that they kind of use to just run wild, burn, destroy stuff.
Oh.
Kind of repeats what he did with Isengard,
Yeah.
pollution, all that bad. It's bad
Yeah.
stuff. Bad
Mhm.
stuff, not good stuff.
Mm-mm.
He also forces Grima to eat Lotho. He just forces.
God.
He just cannibalism. He just kind of like you're gonna eat him.
That's in the book.
Yes, yeah.
Oh my god.
At least heavily in. Actually, no. It's pretty much confirmed because even Grima agrees that he was like being starved and was forced to kill Lotho and then kind of ate him out of hunger. So at this point, Saruman, he's not a good guy. He's not a good guy. But his reign of terror comes to an end in the chapter called "Scouring of the Shire," which is a great chapter. It's unfortunate they had to cut it from the movies.
I recently saw a short talking about that.
It is one of the good chapters. In the movies, of course, they come back and everything's kind of the same. But the Scouring of the Shire, Scouring? I think it's Scouring.
Yeah, Scouring.
The Scouring of the Shire is one of, in my opinion, again, all the chapters are my favorite chapters. But this one's really, it's the big difference between that and the movies. Again, I understand why they had to cut it.
Right.
But the big thing with it is it's like even Mordor comes to the Shire. Like no one is safe from this war.
Wow.
But the four hobbits return, and they fight a couple fights. And the biggest battle is the Battle of Bywater, which is one of the locations in the Shire, which they pretty much rout and destroy most of the ruffians because they're not really an organized fighting force. They're just kind of bullies with clubs and arrows. And then Frodo confronts Saruman at Bag End. Where he actually learns it's Saruman, and he actually lets him go. He decides to exile him, even after Saruman tries to stab him, which ends up failing. Frodo, still good guy. Frodo's like, I'll let you go.
Mm-hmm.
Frodo also attempts to convince Grima to leave, and this is where we get the whole Saruman like, whoa, he's such a good guy. Also, I made him eat your friend. And Grima finally gets mad and has had enough. So Grima chases Saruman, slits his throat, and then runs off, only to be shot by a couple archers.
Wow.
So like that. And these two are considered, if you like take the chronology of the War of the Ring, like all of the battles, these two are considered the last casualties in the war. So Saruman and Grima dying at Bag End are the last casualties, ends in the Shire. Which I guess is kind of poetic and stuff like that. It's where Saruman dies. And there's this last quote. I don't know if you want to read this one or not. It's that last quote.
Mm-hmm.
And this is kind of, it's not from the book, but it's just something that describes his fate by the end of Lord of the Rings.
Whereas Curanir was cast down and utterly humbled, and perished at last by the hand of an oppressed slave, and his spirit went whithersoever it was doomed to go, and to Middle-earth, whether naked or embodied, come never back. Then Curanir was the new name of Sauron?
That was his old name. That was his like
Curanir was
Sindarin. Sindarin was basically just another form of Elven speech. But yeah, so and it kind of tells about his fate, because like Gandalf of course gets revived, and he's the only one to return to Valinor, to the Undying Lands.
Mm-hmm.
The other ones have their own fates.
Right.
Not all of them are evil. Again, Radagast isn't evil. He's a tree hugger. He's doing his own thing.
Yeah.
But Saruman does become evil. And so ultimately his fate's kind of like Sauron. Sauron doesn't die necessarily, but he just becomes so weak that he really can't do anything. He just becomes like a shadow as a former self. He can't actually take form or really have any power anymore.
Wow.
So Saruman technically isn't dead, but there's no seeing him in the future.
Mm.
And that's pretty much I have for him. So that's his whole life. I did have a few things.
That's pretty good.
Because especially with the Scouring of the Shire, Saruman I would say, and this is much more of a personal opinion, but Saruman in the books is really, I would say, kind of the main villain. Mm-hmm. Sauron, of course, is the big bad. He's this big force. He's been around for ages. But Saruman, it's kind of
just a force that gets unleashed by Saruman.
Well, Sauron has his own objectives and stuff, of course, and he has his own plans. And there's actually, he goes back all the way to, like, First Age. where he's a lieutenant for Morgoth, which is a whole nother guy I want to discuss. The first Dark Lord.
Wow.
He's terrifying too. But Sauron's been around. He has his own thoughts and reasons and stuff like that. He's not just like mindless.
Right.
But Saruman is the one we actually talk with, the one who interacts, and he's kind of this. He's this more of this spiritual evil. It's why him tainting the Shire, because not only does he destroy it, he corrupts some of the hobbits. Some of the hobbits become not necessarily evil like orcs necessarily,
Just a little.
but he does corrupt the Shire, and it kind of sets him up as this like this spiritual evil, as opposed to where Sauron is, you know, he's bad, but everyone kind of recognizes, you know, he's gonna come in, he's gonna destroy all you love and turn everything into Mordor.
Like, absolutely.
Saruman's got this voice, and he's this nice calm guy. But I don't know what you think about him, but I do think he comes off as, if not the main antagonist necessarily in terms of plot, he does play in this kind of important role. And he's kind of unique among all the different villains. There's not a lot of villains, especially in like Lord of the Rings. There's Sauron, Saruman, Denethor. Denethor is a good guy. We need to talk about Denethor. He kind of goes crazy at the end, but he's not necessarily... He's not a villain. He's not as bad as Saruman. Because even he doesn't get corrupted by the Palantir when Sauron... He hates him too. Whole nother thing. We'll talk about him, but yeah, that's Saruman. And then another thing I had is when did Saruman really become evil? Because there is some debate over this. It's probably when he starts searching for the ring.
Yeah, that's what I was
He starts to search for it for himself.
When you started talking about that he was in charge of researching, that he probably saw all that and was like,
yeah. And it's kind of his always understanding was he could only fight Sauron with earthly powers, as opposed to Gandalf. Kind of this, you know, providential understanding. And even with Saruman, and it's kind of the whole thing with pity, you see a lot more of it in like Gollum, like Frodo constantly reaching out to Gollum, offering him mercy and stuff like that, offering him a chance of redemption. Saruman gets a lot of chances of redemption.
Right.
Even in the voice of Saruman, Gandalf offers for him to join with the Free Peoples, and even Frodo at the end offers for him to turn away and exile him because he wants him to be good. So even up until the end, Saruman could still have become a good guy, or at least redeemed himself in some way. But you know, that just being that petty man he was, that petty Maiar, just could not have any of it, and ultimately died by his own underling, slit in the throat. So yeah.
That's a very good synopsis of Saruman.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. There's a few things I saw, but I couldn't necessarily confirm on. But that's pretty much most of it.
Did we cover already? Where did the name Saruman come from?
Saruman was given by, it's like the man version of Curanir. Well, the Curanir have man of skill. Saruman is like, it's not English, but it's man speech. Yeah. Basically. Actually, I think an interesting fact is Saruman is actually an Old English word, which means man of skill. Oh. So it does in Old English. I want to say it's Old English. Oh. It means man of skill. Someone can probably confirm it for me. Yeah. But it is, I think, an actual name too. So he did choose a real name for Saruman. But yeah, he's probably one of my favorite villains. I know a lot of other people like him too. Again, there's some changes to the movies, but Christopher Lee did a fantastic job anyways. So can't really complain. Yeah. And yeah, I think that's it. So thank you very much for listening to this in all of its glory. If you enjoyed it in any way, maybe leave a comment, you know. Tell us what we should do in the future. I've already got a couple episodes in the pipeline that I'm working on scripts for, but maybe if someone leaves a comment, I might use it for a future episode. Who sees? And if I missed anything or I got anything wrong, people can point it out to me and make fun of me.
Yeah, I'm definitely ready for next episode.
Yeah.
Like that was a lot, but I think I got like all of it.
Yeah. But if you're here to the end and you're listening to us, thank you. Do you guys have any last words of wisdom to conclude with?
Don't be petty.
Fair.
Don't work with the Dark Lord.
Don't work with the Dark Lord. Moral of the story, don't work with the Dark Lord. And if you are, don't betray him 5 seconds later to try to get the ring for yourself.
And don't work with a guy named Wormtongue.
Don't work with a guy named Wormtongue.